we can, I guess we can start the meeting. Are you all set in there?
Yep.
Okay, it's 8:03. Call this meeting of the Municipal Building Committee to order for August 22nd, 2024. First thing is public forum, to everybody to address the committee. Seeing none, move on to review of the past minutes from August 8th, 2024. Does anybody can make a motion?
Move their approval.
Second.
Okay, do we have any comments or corrections that need to be made? Seeing none, all those in favor? 4 being present, unanimous. Turn it over to our architect.
Good morning. Thank
morning.
you.
Morning.
As I said,
yeah.
do you want to hit it on? I mean, I was going to just say,
Yeah,
I was
go
going to give
ahead.
the great, and I said a little bit to some of you that have come in, what a pleasure it is. We're having such a good time putting together the packages that you have. Just to remind you, there are 2 separate packages. The one that has the blue sky on it, it's not trying to influence anything, but that's using the existing, part of the existing building and doing additions onto it. The second one is packages in all new construction, and it's very much on the process that you guys described that you wanted us to explore and that we're going to get costing for. So Lauren's going to kick it off and run through there, and feel free to stop, ask questions, or make comments anywhere along the way. But I think the goal is that this is going to go and really get some really serious pricing on it. So whatever comments that you may have, we can incorporate them into the thinking.
Yes, exactly. These are some of the packages after the last meeting that we put together for our cost estimator. That just really, now that we have like a plan for each, we can really go into detail and get floor plans and elevations and all that information to them, which is going to really, and we've gotten it to them, but it's going to really help them estimate to greater detail. And then we've, as we talked about, started getting some exterior elevations, an idea of what the building's going to look like, and some 3D modeling done on the building for our final deliverable, which will be a couple renders, and just to give you an idea of what it may look like. So why don't we just start with, because I have it up, the new construction 2-story building option that was decided on last meeting as the option to move forward with. We can just run through some of the plan stuff quickly, just to give an overview. We've, on the screen in front of you, we have a basement plan.
Can I just ask a question? Do you
yeah.
have these on screen too?
I do, yeah.
Okay, so we'll show it.
Yeah,
Just so the public and where it's getting taped, they want to see
we
that.
have
Perfect,
everything.
okay.
We also have the 3D model as well. That
Oh,
we
awesome.
can,
That's the really cool thing.
Okay,
zoom,
cool.
That you don't-
rotate around.
Sorry to jump in.
Oh, no, it's okay.
No, that's the idea. That's exactly why we have.
And we can make whatever available as we've done previously to be put on the website. Great.
Yeah, the model's really cool.
Might just try to get
that's
those images a little higher
you get to
quality.
walk around. Yeah, no, you get to walk around the building and see what it's like.
But as we previously talked about with the 2-story model, since we have the elevator full basement underneath with we're calling an 8-foot ceiling height right now, which would give you clubhouse storage space, restaurant storage space, and mechanical and utility space for the building. How that's divided can be explored a little more at a later time frame, but we're showing a rough division, just some interior partition walls and, keeping those spaces a little separate. And then we, in doing the elevations, we kind of play with some of the faces of the building to give relief to certain areas and, add some character in. So this is slightly changed from what you've last seen, and we pulled out some areas and pushed in some areas. But the general layout is pretty similar. Club shop, pro shop on the left with that, entrance, office, storage, and bathrooms, a main foyer that everybody would be able to enter through, and stairs up to the second level of the restaurant, kind of like what we're calling a rear foyer that could be an interior space, public space for, the clubhouse if they need it, or, tables, chairs, kind of a sitting space, extra space, and then bar to the left, and, bathrooms and kitchen back of house, and that covered patio to the rear and a covered patio to the front. Which we've kind of imagined as your main approach to the building.
One
So
of
say
the
that
things-
again, the main approach, like for the restaurant,
Yeah, it would be up through
Right through there.
here.
also to the front.
To
Yeah,
the front,
through the front. But
Imagine this is, since we had proposed, and it's not shown here, but since we had the
Parking.
proposed here, you might have like a main path coming from this direction and a main path, walking path coming this way. So this is your main entrance. And then if you're, coming off the course or anything, you can enter through the rear, or if you're, coming out of the pro shop, and these kind of give you your two paths to your bathroom facilities as well. So we have like the main entrance to the building / restaurant, and then the main entrance to that pro shop to the side. They're kind of separated a little bit.
Well, and the only thing I noticed that in the pro shop, and it looks like that's a window in the back. I don't see any entrance, well, there's the one on the side that goes into
Yep.
the pro shop, but if people coming off the course and wanting to run into the pro shop for whatever reason, purchase something, there's not really an entrance into the pro shop from the golf course itself.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like there's a window there. That
Yeah.
window potentially could be a door.
It could be a
if we-
door, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, there was another entrance that, you could go through the foyer and across from where that elevator is. We have another entrance.
Okay, right, there is an opening
Yeah,
there.
so
right,
we
you
have,
come in-
but
yeah.
I think your point's well taken. If you wanted to not have to go in the building, go out, that could be a.
That's
door
kind of
as
what
well.
they have today. They come into that meeting room and then have to go
Yeah.
through
yeah.
there. So I guess that's the question. It's an opening from that foyer to the stairwell from.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah,
And
this is
and that's
all
all
open.
open. I think, don't be fooled by the lines that we have around the stair. That should be open all the way through. It just kind of
Okay.
shows that there's,
It's showing
Yeah.
lines above.
yeah, it shows the areas above.
Perfect.
The other thing I was just going to add, that part of what we did a little bit tweaked some of the dimensions on it, imperceptible to everyone, but except one of the things we're going to do is have price up the prefab option.
Yeah.
And so that we massaged it a little bit to be able to work within, how they produce it in their factory, basically. So we massaged it a little bit to do that, so that they'll be able to give you, bring us all back a price. Like, this is what it would cost if we were to prefabricate this and bring it to the site and construct it.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a 2-foot grid, so any
Right.
builder would enjoy that. Builder
Right,
is
right,
completely-
right. It's not just unique
On
to
a
them,
2-foot
but
grid.
it's something.
Yeah, so
in the
we're
back of
getting
our
some
minds.
pricing back for prefab as well as, traditional stick-built,
Right.
just so you get an idea of what the cost differential
Yeah.
may be going one way or the other. But yeah, I think we can,
Can I ask you just one other question? Just, the pro's not here, but I know Howie has a smaller office now, but I'm assuming you could put, where the door is now, you could put a door that faces into the pro shop? A lot of
Yes.
times now he comes in, but he can see people coming in and talk to people as they
Right.
come in.
yeah, this can all be kind of reconfigured depending on, if he wants the door out. So if you're sitting at your desk, you can see out,
yeah.
people coming in, versus this is a little more concealed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think there's plenty of wall space in that area, and there can always be little jogs made in the walls to get more, that you can put the door there and then kind of shift some of those entrances around.
Right.
Perfect.
Lauren's touching on a good point. One is there's a lot more to the design
Yeah.
that has to happen from, going from here to there. I mean, the things, this is deceptive. It looks like, oh, we're all set. Let's start construction tomorrow. But there's a lot of discussion that should happen, and that's the process would be going forward, is that you meet, really go through it, and then you figure out all these, they're not details, but they're really important features of it. How much display wall is needed, where's the best way to have an entrance. Lauren just mentioned the idea of visibility, of looking out and seeing customers in the shop, all that good stuff. That will come.
Perfect.
Yeah, we just really wanted to, since we nailed the plan down, make sure everything was
Yeah.
given an appropriate amount of space before it went out to estimating, so that we weren't like, oh, wait, there's not enough.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It has to be real enough looking without it being the final
I
plan.
think these are a little out of order. The second level, it's kind of a little unfinished, the plan at this point, but you walk up the stairs, you have the elevator, and you have a host waiting area. You have some dining, bathroom facilities, back of house kitchen, and a secondary stair, which would be, emergency egress from that level, and be a circulation stair for the, kitchen staff to get between their different spaces on the 3 levels. And then we imagine this big dining room also being able to be divided off into a function space to seat the 60 people for potential banquets and events that the golf club may want to use the restaurant for. And then we have the rear deck with seating, which will, of course, look out over the golf course and be a nice area to go out and eat in good weather. And so we're kind of just showing a rough estimate of those spaces at the moment. And of, windows out, doors out for the cost estimator.
Right, and the function room is accommodating the size of what you're looking for, something that could also be closed off, so you could have a function and people dining upstairs in the restaurant at the same time. There'll be doors and all that good stuff in there. Again, we're showing, just the rough, demarcations of, what's where. But, it's very comfortable. It's a very, very comfortable kind of setup.
Now, in that side space where you have the function room, in
Yes.
that line through,
Yes.
is that a roof line, the one that goes?
Yes,
towards-
all of those were just sort of showing.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the opportunity exists that you could have kind of a cathedral
A
type
vaulted
ceiling,
space.
which kind of give you the ooh and ah factor that as you rent this out to people that they would really like.
Okay. But I guess my other question was, could that space be, like if you had a small function,
Could you divide it?
could you divide it and have function one and still have regular dining?
Yeah, that's what
in
we were thinking of is, the potential to divide this space off in a way that you're still maintaining some dining space outside, right? So if the restaurant did decide to hold a function at nighttime or
Right.
a more high volume time, that you would still have a decent amount of tables
yeah.
on the second level available. And so maybe that's, a wall right here and some sort of, movable partition or some sort of, wall with big openings and, French doors or something you can close off and, get that separation. And
Good.
that's kind of one of those next steps of exploring how
Right.
to kind of deal with that space.
We've done some
Yeah.
work with churches in particular, but also a lot of our senior living where they're looking for flexibility of spaces.
Yeah.
And so the movable wall, what's really great, it used to be that they were extremely expensive, but there are a lot of people doing them, so costs have come down. Again, that process would be as, in the future, as Lauren was alluding to, we'll show you places that have movable walls. We'll have you move them, have them, try them out, see what they're like. But they're great. And, in church that we did fairly recently, they wanted to have several classrooms, but then open it up so they could have a wedding in their large thing. And so, they're just nifty ways to sort of burying them and making the little pockets that you fold them into. So that would be the idea here.
Yeah, but that space could definitely be divided up in a way that you can still get your, private dining space that seats
Right.
roughly 60 people and then have some dining space for the restaurant so that you're not like taking away all their dining space if they were to ever host a function at night, which they might want that ability.
Yep.
We have a pretty good amount of floor space up here to work with. Threw in a roof plan as we're starting to build the model and figure out some of these, how it may actually look. So we'll just actually go to the elevations. So for this new construction, we stuck with the, aesthetic of the existing farmhouse. It's a Greek revival, colonial revival house. This iteration of the house kind of leans a little more Greek revival in a sense, but we copied the details from that front gable, and we did two separate front gables here on the front, one for that pro shop, one kind of where that restaurant space is, and really tried to capture, the detail of the plaster and of the gable and the box eaves and the trim running across.
Right, and just to be clear, that top image is
The front.
facing the parking
Yeah.
lot is the street
Street
side,
view.
and the very large balcony on the lower image is the one that faces the golf course, just to.
And so, we have this, we were calling it a porch in the previous iterations, but more of a covered patio as the columns sit on grade. that will tie in to that, row of existing traditional homes and porches coming down the street. It gives you a nice sheltered walkway to the main entrance of the building as well. And then, a nice gable here to kind of call out that that's where you're heading, and provide, room for signage as well. Lots of double hung windows, all kind of symmetrical. That was a big kind of part of that aesthetic Greek Revival house, and just really trying to make it look like it, belongs in that context. It is a big building, and we do want to point out, so like these walls will all, and as you'll see in the model, kind of push back to give those gables some prominence, so to kind of break the scale of that building down a little bit. But it's not so big that we think it would be out of context in that residential neighborhood. It's really not too different from a large house that a developer would be putting in some of these areas and size-wise.
We also started recognizing areas on the building where
highlight.
signage could go on there, which again will sort of add, certainly, right where Lawrence now has her cursor, and then flanking either side of the main entrance so that the restaurant would be prominently in view, and just make it really clear for visitors, arrow pointing restaurant,
Where to go.
And so anyway.
And then, since this is technically back of house space in this area, tried to limit some of the windows and the amount of openings to provide privacy, because nobody's going to want to walk up and look into a kitchen, and I'm sure the restaurant coming in is not going to want big double hung windows that they have to work around now when they're thinking of where to put equipment and tables and benches. And so these flanking sidewalls gave us some areas to just kind of leave it more less open, and I'm sure there's going to be greenery and shrubbery as well that will kind of soften that area. Looking down below, we have the rear elevation looking out into the golf course, and so we have that covered patio on the first level and that open deck on the second level. As we move into exploring this a little further, I know we had previously talked about maybe a covered deck space on the second level, or we could explore that as well. For this, we just kept everything open, and we have one big gable that kind of leads you out, and just providing a lot of connection, the double windows, lots of double French doors out to that deck space from the different dining and eating areas. This is right where you come up. This is the smaller dining area off to the right side, and this is from that function room. And just trying to maximize the glazing out the back, but also keeping the glazing very in character with the style of the building. We have a little more flexibility, I feel like, on the back of the building to do something a little different if we wanted to explore larger glazing and more openness, because you're not going to quite see that driving up from the street. And this is, not fully flushed through with all the openings at the moment, but
Right, but your point earlier about the golf, into the pro shop, you can take those windows, those could be full height doors.
The door.
But there, you actually made a really good point. One of the things we did, I think you remember when we interviewed, we showed you a picture in Groton of Gibbet Hill Grill. And one of the things we did originally with them is we had a deck in there, but we came up with a really nice system that they could kind of make it a 3-season porch, so that just, between some awnings that were being closed, be able to come out, but then open it up come spring and summertime to do that. So again, we have to leave a few things left to do as we advance the design moving forward. But there are some really nice things you can do that with.
And we have a good opportunity here with this gable of, if that, pulls itself out and has
Right.
some columns to support it down, you could kind of enclose that area and have some open area, some like full deck area, and some maybe 3-season, slightly enclosed eating area.
It's quite, so that, looking at the elevations, but what are you thinking in terms of floor to ceiling height, first floor, second floor?
So, the floor to floors for this right now are set up at 10 feet. So it would give you roughly a 9-foot floor to ceiling height on that first level, 10 feet to get up to the second floor. And then on the second level, because of the vault, we have the top of plate kind of set roughly around 8'6", and then it would vault up. And that level can be played with because you're going to have a lot of space. And also when you think about being on the second level, most of the time you're going to be sitting down at a table, which is going to make it seem even bigger.
Yeah.
But that is also with prefab, one of the restrictions is the floor to floors, and that height, because they have to ship everything, so.
Right.
The 10-foot panel size is kind of the max you can go. But I think 9 feet is pretty,
Yeah, it's gracious.
good,
I
yeah.
think that's the theme, is let's be gracious without it being overwhelmingly
anything
big.
taller
Yeah.
kind of, you run out of
Yeah.
usable space
Yep.
after a certain point, especially in the pro
Yeah,
shop with
9 feet's great.
wall displays.
The more you put, the more you have to cool and heat too.
You got it.
That is correct.
Got that right.
So we kind of get that, we were talking in the office about, we have room to bring that eave down a little still and still maintain a lot of volume and space. But for now, we've kind of kept it as is. The building is roughly 31 feet tall from grade to the ridge line. Obviously, that will change as that grade does kind of, slope down near
That's
the
sort of an
rear. But
average.
And what's the current building, do you know?
I do not. I think it's probably a little shorter. We can find out. I believe the floor to floors in there are probably a lot less than
Yeah.
10
Older,
feet.
yeah.
Yeah. I could pull it.
Should
I
we go to
can't
the
pull it up.
model?
Um, we have
But
2 more
it's
pages of
just-
elevations.
Quick elevations of,
Yeah, the last 2 of the sides. This is the left side looking at the entrance to the golf pro shop. And this is the right side looking at kind of the back of house kitchen space. We've kind of treated the building as if it has 2 fronts. You're going to have 2 main facades that you're going to see, right? You're going to drive along and see that front facade, but also driving from the other direction, you're really going to see this left facade and, parking in the parking lot, walking towards the building.
Yeah.
That's something you're going to see. So
yeah, if you're in the little putting green there, you would have that view of
Yeah,
the
and-
blank side, but then that works fine, in terms
Yeah.
of back of the house.
So our goal was to maximize the windows in this facade. 1 for the golf pro to be able to see out of the clubhouse, and 2 on that second level, that would be your main dining space. So get as much light
Light.
in that space as possible, and just have put a little entrance over the pro shop, which leaves some room for signage and just kind of makes it a feature. So if you're walking at the building, you can say, okay, that looks like an entrance. That's where I'm going. And then for the kitchen elevation, there's going to be a lot of equipment and penetrations needed for those kitchen spaces coming out of that side. So we left it pretty blank at the moment. There's always room to work some windows in, but it is nice that because of the way the site works, you have some trees and kind of shading that side from view. So I imagine once all the kitchen equipment gets in there, it's going to fill up with, stuff you don't
penetrations.
quite want to see.
Yeah, and there's an opportunity to actually put fencing in
Yeah.
around it and sort of like help.
Hide some things.
Yeah,
from view.
because it is very much on view. It's true, it's really a main three-sided building. You have the street facade, you have this facade
And the
up
rear.
there, and then the rear facade
You're
that
gonna
looks
see
on the
golfing.
golf course. It's a very visible building from many sides, which is great. That's the idea.
Yeah, and just, we've started getting into the modeling.
Just one quick question on
Yeah.
the elevation. What's the thoughts behind having one gable higher than the other? Having the back gable higher than,
Then the front gables,
yeah.
it just allowed us this wider kind of meeting space. Or not meeting space. On the interior, it gave us a little more square footage to work with on that back wall. Pulling that gable out, it could be a smaller gable to tie into the front as well. We just thought with the back and pulling it up to the ridge height, it was just since there's only one gable on that side, it gave it a little more prominence too, when you're looking at it.
How would the building feel if the top of the roof came to the top of those lower gables? Would that?
Oh, it does
If,
came all
oh
the way
yeah, if
down?
it was like a lower sloped.
Yeah.
I don't think it would, I think it would we could still make it feel,
Yeah, I
look
mean,
like.
I think we could
Yeah.
study that,
Yeah.
right? I don't think that's a.
If you change the height of that ridge on the back dormer, you'd also have to change the width of the,
Yeah.
unless you're not gonna match.
Exactly.
This would get,
Exactly.
less wide, those side gables.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we, set up the side gable to be a proportion that we thought worked with the space, and then, did our other gables around it. But there's always room to massage these things.
Right.
And
Like that's
to
a
get a
sort of
different
preliminary design, you know,
Yeah.
from what's the feasibility.
No, you guys have made tremendous progress.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
no,
guess-
no, no,
I guess the only other thing to be helpful is, eventually we're gonna be talking to restaurateurs, developers. Be good to know the number of seats that each of these options, and I know that's part of the
Absolutely.
package.
we can make a little list.
Yeah,
with
we'll have
the-
a list,
the
there's, I mean, it's
square
really,
footage.
yeah, the square footage, occupancy loads
Yeah.
and all of that. And we can even populate a bit more, like with the tables and chairs that you see elsewhere, like in the pub area there. It's
Yeah, to
just
get
give you a feel like,
rough
this is what you
numbers.
could have, and then code allows you X number. There's a lot, you got a lot of seats.
I have a
Right.
couple of questions.
Sure.
What is roughly the overall length of the front of the building from the extreme outside to the extreme outside? What is the length roughly? 60, 70 feet?
Yeah, so each of these gables are 28 feet. I think this comes out 16 in the middle, so
So it's 56 plus 16.
17.2 there.
I would say, yeah, and then you have this phase.
Doesn't have to be exact, and just.
It's probably closer to
Now
90.
that we look at this in perspective, it's a massive
Massive
looking building to me. Don't get me wrong, I like a lot of what I see, but now that we see it stood up, it looks enormous.
Yeah.
31 feet tall. Well, I have a colonial house and my ridge is not 31 feet up. And I have an 8-pitch roof, 2-story. But anyways, it just seems to me that this is much bigger than I envisioned in my mind. I understand we're trying to get a lot of stuff in a small space.
Yeah.
And the bag just don't hold it all. But I just, at 72 feet, that just, to me, says it's so commercial, even though it's looking to try and fit in a residential area. And I don't know that there's much that can be done with that. That's
Right.
my observation. It's not right or wrong, it's just what
Sure,
it is.
sure. I think when we've gone up and down, Main Street, and look, I mean, the houses are really significant. And the other point, which I think, well, it'd be good to go to the model actually and sort of see it, because I think when you see it, so there's a flat, straight on flat elevation, you don't get to appreciate sort of some of the ins and outs that we were talking about. It is a large, I'm not trying to say that this isn't a large building, but it's also on a site where it can afford a certain amount of breathing. I mean, there's a lot of breathing room around it, and it isn't a straight house. It is house-like, but
No, I understand
but we're just
I'm not
Yeah.
knocking it, it's just
No,
an
no, it's just an
as I start
observation,
looking
sure.
at it.
It's not, yeah,
Sure.
it's
It
not a
makes
small
me think
building.
it's not
nursing home.
it's not a small. Well, and that's interesting as we'll get in a minute to the one where we're actually using part of the building. You'll see it's much more broken up in there, even though it has a lot, it's the same functions, and about to do it. But you're right.
Do you know how many square feet this is?
No, we can get that information
Yeah,
to
we'll
you
get
guys after the meeting. I don't have my CAD drawings up to grab it, off of it.
As you said too, the two side pieces are set back, so the kind of the front that
Correct.
protrudes
Yeah.
out is
Yeah.
And a lot of that
kind
can
of that
be,
70 feet, and then it's
Oh, no, I
Yeah.
understand. And I like the effect of that. I don't
Yeah.
like a straight line building.
right. Yeah.
no.
Because then it is just a.
Yeah, and the porch
Flat.
is also,
Yeah, exactly.
and the porch is in this case certainly sort of help break that.
Right. The porch only
down a
uses
little bit.
the front
Correct.
kind of dormer to. Or
Yeah, and,
gable
you
to
know,
gable, yeah.
there's always little tweaks that can be made to, like, this is the kitchen space, so maybe it comes down in volume a little bit, as they don't quite need a vaulted space and the same amount of room there, but there's many tweaks that can be done to try to get the
Right.
scale down a little more. It is big.
I have a couple of other things.
Yeah.
If I may.
Yeah.
On the front porch, you show us half gable at either end of the porch. Mm-hmm. To me, in keeping with this style, and I could be wrong again, but I think the hip roof look from either end would bring that porch look down a little bit, because the roof now slopes away to the peak, or up to the peak. We don't have this block comes out to the corner of the front of that. I think the present building has hip roofs on the porch.
It does, yeah.
It does, yeah. Yeah, no, it could,
If it were me, I'd prefer to see that. To me, it's a more pleasing look, but I think it's gonna make the front of that look, bring it down a little bit in scale, even though you're not changing anything but the roof.
yeah.
You're just, yeah, changing the perception
Yep,
of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the other thing, are we talking, under these porches, front and back, is it a slab, is it, I mean, I know that's something that can be determined, but what are you seeing right now in this picture?
Just
It's
footings.
not a deck,
Yeah.
it's an entrance.
It's not a deck, just footings to support the columns, not any sort of crawl space or
So
basement space.
But yeah,
It's a
I would think it would
hardscape
be,
walk-
Hardscape
it would
walkway.
be hardscaped on there. Yeah, you need to do that, have something. And, you know, well lit, all of that kind of nice stuff that you'd have that. It's a great lighting opportunity, so you don't have light pollution coming in there that people would see. But yeah, it should be a hardscape.
Very good, thank you. I am pleased with the step back and
Yeah.
pull in and all that. I like that. Just now seeing it in better perspective, it looks big.
Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah.
really great that we're getting into the detail. This is great at this stage of the game. It's wonderful, and it just shows the excitement that we have in the office about the potential of where we're going. You know, once we hit the ground running in design.
Well, the side looks like the front of the original building right now.
Yeah. Should we
Yeah,
go?
I tried to pull some of those.
Should we go to the other
Details in.
the other option, which
Can you
was?
just run
Yeah.
this around the back?
Oh, sure.
Good.
Sorry.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many options and opportunities with the rear too. If you wanted to kind of carry over that double gable look on the front, we showed a different option just to get, the one gable on the back, but it's really kind of limitless with the little pushes and pulls you could do here. And there's definitely ways to get that ridge height down and to decrease the
Yep.
size of that front gable. So
Yep.
maybe you're keeping the building the same size, but perceptually
Well, I
making
think
it
the
look
roof pitch, you
smaller.
called it out at 7 inches. I think that's more in standard with an old look.
Right.
8, 7, 9, even 10, we like those. When you
Yeah.
start getting down to a 6 pitch,
Yeah.
Oh,
which
yes.
brings the
True.
roof line down, you start getting a squat building, and I think that looks worse than anything else.
Yes,
We
you're
would
not
agree
wrong.
with you on that one.
Yeah, these are all 7
Definitely.
to 12s, which I think is the original, what that original farmhouse is as well. Yeah, we can get into the,
Would you like to see the other option in here?
Yep.
Just-
and so, yeah, we have some little, we just took a couple of screenshots that we provided you guys of the model as well, for both options. Looking at that renovation option. So as we talked about previously, we're proposing keeping the main gable, restoring the porch, and kind of tearing off everything behind that front volume of the house and just starting over. So with that, we've proposed a new basement under that new addition. How much of this is basement versus 5-foot crawl space we can figure out, but for now we've just shown it as all new basement, and provided 2 new main sets of stairs down, so kind of get around
The B code.
some of the egress issues in the
Desired.
existing building. Kind of removed any sort of egress out of that basement. We still show keeping that existing basement space.
Right.
But that might be something where when you get into it with ceiling heights and stuff, that maybe that's like purely mechanical space and you just don't want to use that for the
Yeah, it's
restaurant
not.
storage area or the pro shop storage, due to, it's,
Uninhabitable space.
Yeah,
You always need some of that.
and, a lot of this currently is crawl space for under that porch, and I imagine when that enclosed porch comes off, there will potentially be some work down there as well, but we would just keep it as crawl space with an access point,
Okay.
and not try to make that any sort of inhabitable basement area. And then this would be where the new entrance is. It would be crawl space just due to the fact that we have to be at grade level to get into the building. And so the plan has not differed much from what we previously looked over, you know, restoring the porch, a new entrance with a ramp, stairs, this post waiting area, a formal dining room that could be a function space, new bathroom facilities, and then the bar in the back with a concession window and another dining, more casual dining space, with the deck that wraps around and looks out to the golf course. Some back of house area for the kitchen, solid kitchen space with access to the basement, and then the pro shop would be completely separate from that restaurant space. So that's kind of the plans we sent out to our cost estimator, so they're all marked up.
One of the things that Arthur had sent me for questions, and I was going to bring it up to the board, was committee is the mechanicals for estimating. There was basically two options that he had laid out, that there would be one big system that would do the whole building,
Right.
or would they pro shop and the restaurant have separate mechanicals? I didn't answer the question because I wanted to get everybody's figure on it. And basically he said that they could do it two ways. They could just put cabinet heaters in the restaurant space for now, and then the fit out would be done by the restaurant, and put their own mechanicals in, or the town could install the mechanicals, have stuff stubbed up through, because we don't really know what they're gonna do for their fit out. And my idea was to attract more people that would be interested in renting the space. I would think somebody who was considering renting the space, if they had to then come up with $100,000 to say, to put in their mechanicals, it might limit the amount of people that actually would want to come into the space. And maybe I'm wrong, but it just seems like, especially if it was any local people that would be considering, bidding on this process, that if we didn't put the mechanicals into the building at least, not that it wouldn't be their responsibility once they take over the space, but at least have them there, I think we generate more, and I thought it was maybe something we should discuss, just so we can keep these guys, with their estimators, knowing whether we're gonna put in the HVAC system, or if we're just gonna, heat the space with cabinet heaters so nothing freezes, and then, they would be responsible.
Is it possible to understand the cost both ways? Because I think
Yeah.
I think
we'll
so,
have a
yeah.
broader
Absolutely.
yeah, I think
we
that
can.
would be helpful, because
Yeah.
we'll have a broader discussion, I think, after this about funding and how
Right.
what our next step is related to that partnership.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I think the really important issue is being able to meter things separately,
Yeah.
which we can kind of do that, put that in and to split it off. But yeah, I absolutely agree. I think we can sit there and have the pricing done with either mini
Yeah.
splits or essentials. I mean, you're going to do something for the general building, which you're going to do in there, but accommodate it. So there's, again, that flexibility where it comes into play is allow, the pro shop and the restaurant to be metered separately.
Just to get to the original question, though, I think it would be good to have the pro shop separate from the other one, just from the metering standpoint.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, no, you
They
definitely.
pay for everything, and the golf course
Yeah,
pays for their stuff.
there's really three. You have the main part of the building of the common space. The pro shop is one, and the restaurant would be the separate. And then we can definitely get into that.
Yeah, and
So
in
we're
this
saying-
option, really, you've divided the spaces so much that you
It
can easily
would
separate
be
that.
easy
I
to do
think,
that.
I think as I think about the question too is, I like the idea of seeing both of them, but because our view still is the restaurant is a leased space, it means that can turn over. We've seen that in the past, so.
Right.
My concern with someone that came in, you made them pay that money, well, they just rip that out in the next person, then you start getting,
Right.
you wouldn't want them to do that. If we provide that, yeah, the kitchen stuff, as we've done before, they bring it in, they take it out. But I'm almost leaning that we would wanna fit it out with that, but I'd love to see the two prices. I think that's the right way to do it.
I was going to wait, but I think we're talking about this now. Is one of the things that we really need to understand under both options is the percent, like the actual percentage of the building that is like square footage, I know was asked.
Yep.
So what the dedicated space for the golf course, the dedicated space for the restaurant, because those are two different funding sources for us. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think our next steps in kind of leaving would be, we've talked a little bit about, putting some information of square footages, all of that. But I think we could do just that, is have a little chart in both scenarios, say, here it is square footage, boom, 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 and both scenarios in there that you would see exactly that to do that. So,
And not to belabor the point, but one of the reasons to have it broken out is it costs the town a lot more to build things than a developer. So to the extent that we can minimize the initial cost to the town and have the developer, kitchen, restaurant person pick that up, I think there's some advantages.
yeah. I mean, a lot of, I'm just thinking where our offices are in Lexington, and we have a landlord in there. They've had restaurants in there, and they're different costs. I mean, there's usually just arrangements made with tenants about contributions for build-outs and things of that sort. But you need that basic information to sort of understand how to craft a lease and how to do that, and what percentage you're providing with help and build out, if so anyway, yeah, that's on us. While the cost estimator is crunching numbers, we're not going on vacation. We're going to kind of continue on and put together that information, because you're right, it's essential for you to make decisions.
Yeah, so I think for the cost estimator, the reason this space is hatched is, we're showing like bathroom facilities, but they're just gonna price core and shell, to the plywood stud floor and studs, and then the idea that would be finished at a later point.
Right.
You say that again, so the cost estimator will do just the build up, but not,
Yeah, to build the shell of the building, and then he's not gonna price interior partitions there.
Yeah, 'cause we just don't have enough
Facilities.
information.
Okay.
Each
Yeah.
restaurateur is going to come in, someone may want, nice oak finishes and a special floor kind of thing, but you'll have a basic, sort of like what they call broom swept clean, really ready, so someone could come in and do the build out for it. I mean, that's, unless you want to make decisions, say, we're going to have, luxury vinyl tile on the floor put out. It's really going to be up to, I think, the restaurateur to figure out how they want to finish it out.
I just have a question, which I know things can certainly change and not fixed in stone yet. The bathrooms in the pro shop, how many people work in the pro shop, do we know?
It depends on the time of year. I think at most 3.
And are the bathrooms that, I'm assuming there's a bathroom there somewheres in the present building, do golfers come in and use the bathrooms?
Yes.
So these bathrooms are
Very
for
much so.
the pro shop and the golfers?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, they're more so for, course
I'd say
facilities.
it's more the public, yeah, because the times that we've been in the pro shop, they've been very.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking of the golfers coming in and
Yeah.
use it. Because there's more bathroom, or there's as much bathroom space in the pro shop as there is in the restaurant.
Right.
And I would just think if we have 70 people in a restaurant and 4 people in the pro shop, that we're over bathroom.
Right.
Which in my opinion, you can never get over bathroom, but.
but yeah, it is, that would be used for the golfers, and, I mean, it is actually, if I think about, I haven't been in the women's bathroom for the golfers, but the men's is bigger now because it's a locker room.
Right.
It actually
Right.
has a shower facility, but from a actual toilets, sinks, this is kind of what's in there today.
Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of matched fixtures.
Yeah. Yeah.
And removed unneeded fixtures. So we have
Right.
2, 2 toilets, 2 sinks in each facility, which should be enough for
Right.
everybody.
Yep.
We can get into
Yeah. That's good.
And that was really the pros call on that one of what he needed for the golfers,
yeah.
more of what he didn't need.
So getting into the exterior elevations, we're going to start off looking at the left side view.
The
which is
parking
from
lot
the
side.
parking lot. And, we've kept that main volume, restored the porch per some of the historic photos we've seen. and, you know, created a new entrance that's a little more prominent on that face, so you can really like tell where you're supposed to be going.
That's the restaurant
That's
view?
the restaurant
Yeah.
entrance. You know, we have a little back of house to the kitchen space, somewhat similar kind of in layout to what's there because it's really the best location for that. And then a new golf club house that is kind of done more in a Greek revival style. And we wanted to kind of give it some character, but not have it overshadow the main house. So it is a bigger volume, but it's at a lesser scale than that front gable. And we have some play there if we wanted to raise stuff up or explore that further. But, you know, giving it a presence, so you kind of have, you know, your A building, the historic building, and then this is like the secondary volume to that in that new addition.
I think to the earlier point about, you know, the large single volume on here, this is much more broken up. In there, you're getting the same amount of area space, you know, program-wise, but it doesn't appear like a big building. I mean, it's almost like a little village of buildings there.
Yeah, because everything, you know, this is the only 2-story volume. Everything else
Right.
is a single story, maybe with some extra vaulted space, but it allowed us to keep roofs really low and kind of reduce the scale of a
Right.
lot of that. So, sorry, I have these kind of out of order, but if we want to go look at the front elevation, so far what we've kind of proposed is, again, this is that historic gable, the porch wraps around, the bay is kind of restored to what it was previously, and excuse me, and then, you know, we kind of are playing around our model. You'll notice our model and our elevation kind of show 2 different options here, and this is the corridor that kind of gets you back to that new bar and dining area. So in our elevations, we kind of thought it might be nice to make it look like a, you know, enclosed porch, lots of windows,
Like
the
a little
columns.
solarium kind
Yeah,
of piece. Yeah.
as a connecting piece back to another gabled volume, just to, and you know, it's kind of hard here, but we'll look at it in the model because these are really pushed so far back from the front of that existing building. But just to reduce the scale and not have a secondary gable facing the street that kind of overpowers or competes with that historical gabled structure.
What's on the second floor? Did I miss that? Sorry.
We were just going to vault the space. I think the idea was to keep this as the formal dining, you know, remove that second level and really
Okay.
vault
Yeah,
the space.
avoid having an elevator,
Sure.
you know, piece
Yeah.
that you'd have to do that to you know, to make it accessible.
Right now, that was only used as office space.
It's off, yeah.
And it's disgusting.
I know.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting
As
office
part
space.
of this
Yes.
renovation, would the porch be torn off and rebuilt?
It would potentially, from the photos, you can kind of see that the roofs are sagging a lot in that porch structure, and I'm sure once they start taking stuff out, that
I think it should be,
It's
I think
fine
you
that
would
it needs to be
build it,
rebuilt.
that it be in
And
good
the
condition.
first floor in the main building, the old building, I assume you guys have been in and looked at all of that.
yes.
What is your recommendation? Because if somebody's got to price this out, this is information that's going to have to be known. Is this a complete removal of the first floor and rebuilding of the first floor? Because I'm sure it's not to today's code for a
Correct.
restaurant or any kitchen area or whatever would be in it.
Yeah,
That, I don't want to have a forest of posts and whatever's there for a cellar now, not that it's usable, because this is the old part of the house with stone foundation. But would we put a first-class floor in there?
It would kind of depend on what they uncover during demolition.
But I think to price it out, somebody's got to know that.
yeah.
I mean, if I were
I think,
remodeling, I'd want to know whether I'm
There's a
replacing it or trying to rehab it.
Yeah,
Because rehab is a whole different animal.
correct, and it would usually, and it would probably be more expensive. I mean, I think that, you know, our take, I think, could be that there are some elements in there. Let's, for example, if the mantle in the fireplace, if you want to take that and keep it and then reuse it, I could do that. But I think cleaning it up and, you know, giving you a nice, sturdy, you know, proper, it would be likely the best scenarios to make it new and then bring it back into
And the
style.
foundation in that part of the house being stone foundation, what is gonna be the recommendation from you guys to handle that? You're gonna, spray Short Creek on the walls,
Yeah, I mean,
close this up, make it I don't wanna say more modern, but
well, it has to be.
get rid of
re-
all the cracks and crevices and
Right.
mud holes.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely want to make it watertight and, because.
Well, I mean, that's gonna
but
be in your,
It's going to be in our purview to kind of figure that out. And we'll talk with our estimators about efficient ways. I think that you can do that and, still have, keep the effect of restoration on it, but make sure that it's watertight, it's safe, it's structurally sound, which was, a little bit iffy when we were walking through there. So we just want to cure the ills that are there.
Yeah, and we've mentioned this, we sat down with our cost
Yeah.
estimator and talked through the fact that, it's existing fieldstone basement, so there should be some cost associated with having to maintain that and or restore that, and that, that existing shell, I mean, that's gonna be stripped down, cause all the utilities have to be replaced, I mean,
Right.
we know that the electricity is, or the electrical work in there is, interesting, and the plumbing's moving, and all those systems would be replaced anyways because we're putting such a large addition on the back. So we've talked through like what level we think is going to be there, and the fact that you strip it down and there's probably rotted wood that will have to be replaced, and there's probably some sistering of joists and bringing structure, up to code and modern standards, because you can see some of the structure in the attic and you can just, it's not, it was done at a time where it didn't have to meet, the live loads and snow loads that we have to meet today.
Right.
So we did mention that, and he will include that in there.
Right.
But there's a little bit of unknown, and if you open something up, what are you gonna find beyond
my
what
concern
we
with
think of?
reusing the old building is there's gonna be a lot of unknowns. They can't tell us until it's opened up. The guy bidding it, who gets the bid, isn't gonna know until it's opened up.
And
And
you get change orders.
we're gonna get so many change orders, this project's gonna change really quickly. And I'm concerned about that. Now,
Right.
they're trying to cover all bases as they can, but, I've been in a lot of old buildings.
Right.
You don't have a.
Well, I can imagine that is going to be my question too, is how do you properly estimate? 'Cause even what we had done before was basically said, and it was a rough estimate, that you've seen that,
Yeah.
materials, but it didn't open anything up, and that's always to exactly that point. Do you will the estimator put a larger contingency on, saying, hey, we don't know, so we have to say it could be
Well-
this, but it could be much larger once we open it up, or how do
Right.
they get a proper estimate?
Well, we're referring back to the Groton project. I told you, we have these old barns in there. It was exactly that situation. There were cow barns, what was the condition? We kind of go for the worst case scenario, sort of assuming, from what we observed already, where we saw that there were, the sagging and some rot in there, is really assumed that you're really kind of going new. Part of it is just to make sure that you have a building of real integrity kind of putting forward to it. And I think, in a way, it is really keeping the character and the element and the history of the building and allowing it to come in, but making sure that it really works properly. And so I think there may be some, indeed, assumptions like, we've got to really deal with the foundation. It's almost like creating, really securing that foundation and around on there. Let the fieldstone be the fieldstone on it, but then really support it on the inside and make it watertight. Same thing for the structure of it as well. So we kind of, in a way, go the worst case scenario of it, which I think is to avoid the change orders and the things down the road of like, oops, is let's assume this is how we're going to do it, which is going to give you the best building at the end of the day. It's going to give you the building with greatest integrity, which is what you want. You want it to last another 100 years.
When I look at that and I think about the whole project, what we're trying to save in the front of that house compared to what we're taking down is we're taking an awful lot out.
Correct. Correct.
And we're just trying to save the integrity of the front of that house that, to me, we could build that new just like that.
That
right?
would be an
Instead-
option too.
Instead of, have a new foundation under it rather than the old stone foundation.
Right.
And we can make it look like this, just
Right.
exactly like this, but be new.
That's correct. And, and I think, again, for the process moving forward, we're going to get some cost estimates into that.
Yep.
And, we'll have that discussion with the estimators saying, hey, is it even worth it at the end of the day to do it, to build it? We could make it come out exactly new, as you say, on it. But that takes a whole lot of guesswork. And again, that gives us something to do as we start designing the project. We can, definitely, explore what's the right way to do it. But I agree with you. You want to do it when those drawings go out for bidding and construction. We don't want any guesswork on it. It's got to be really. We don't want to say, "Oh, we hope we have it covered." No, we really have to have those well documented, so there isn't the change order nightmare that you're
Because
referring to.
that's critical, and we ran into this on a past project where we had so many change orders,
Yeah,
because, well, even in the one across the street, painting a wall wasn't called out, and we ended up having to pay extra to get a wall painted, and 3/4 of the room is upgraded, but the one wall,
yeah,
and the painter isn't gonna paint it because it wasn't on his
right.
thing, and remodeling concerns me more than building new.
Yeah,
Building new, I have concerns with how big it looks and certain other aspects of it, but
it's true. This could all be
remodeling
brand
is
new.
an unlimited question. It just, the
Yeah.
questions just keep coming in and coming in.
Yeah.
So,
To that point, it sounds like we almost have three options here. So we have this is kind of using what we already have, keeping it and rehabbing it, but if it came back and said, hey, I guess this is a question, say, hey, we really like this view, but can we
do it all
build
new?
all new?
Sure.
So it kind of looks the same as it is, but expands out, and then you have all brand new. setback.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think what this would do, if it were all new, would say, here's the intent. We really are matching everything that's in there, but we want to make sure we have a really safe building. And that would be done that way. And to one of the points, and it's a little plug for ourselves, we are absolutely demonic when it comes to putting together good documents. We hate change orders, and
Good to hear.
Oh, good, so do we.
no, it has, the amount of time that I spend, contractors arguing, project that we're finishing up now, that all of a sudden I got a change order that was 1.5 years old from it. And I went, no, you don't get to do that. Look at what the drawing says. It's got to be, everything's got to be spelled out. And we totally believe that to our core, because it makes everyone's life miserable. Otherwise.
well, I know in new, it's easy,
Yeah,
relatively easy to say, this is our intent and this is in the documents.
Right.
When we remodeled an old building, this is our intent, this is what we put in the documents, but this is over here,
Right.
unknown.
right,
And so I'm still concerned about
Right.
reworking the old building. I
right.
mentioned building new to match that. I like that, but a certain set of people in town aren't gonna be happy with that, because new looking like old is not old.
Right.
And
Well, but again, if we're select, maybe there are elements of things that we could bring along over, just throughout
Some
the.
old clapboards that are sitting.
No, I was just sort of
They're all
saying,
rotted, sorry.
Put the old windows back
yeah,
in.
I think we showed you a project a couple of years ago down in Hanover, Mass. It was a marketplace. And the one requirement that the town of Hanover had is they wanted to incorporate an old barn that was in there somehow into it. The barn was totally insect infested, all the sodding was inappropriate in there, but the main structure was really good. And so we were able to do that, even highlight it and expose it to that. We also found some really good barn board that was appropriate. It wasn't the infested one. We had new barn board put in. It means a lot, and I think you can really, tip your hat and nod to the existing by providing, other, elements that are in the building that might be worth keeping. The mantles are obvious ones, things that say, hey, we brought this over, and this is from.
I do like if we do go new somehow, and I didn't even notice whether we have a chimney fireplace set up in the new
Yeah,
thing. But we've worked in old buildings where we've saved mantles, wainscoting, the old
Yeah.
panel wainscoting. And to me, it does add some character to a new building that tried to bring forward something out of the past.
sure.
And I would love to see that, but I understand it comes with a cost.
Yeah, I mean,
Big
know,
cost.
there's sometimes even when, we finished a project recently at Tufts where we had a historic district review, even though the building was not particularly historic. But we kept a couple of elements which we actually had to rebuild in. There were some brackets that were in there that, I think the effort being made to sort of, tip our hat and nod to the past is what people were very responsive to that. So I think there are a lot of things at our disposal moving forward.
Excuse me, I have to leave in about 10 minutes.
You want to, let's do the model quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would like to talk about what we're thinking we're bringing before a town meeting and be involved in that discussion if we could.
Yeah, let's just go quickly so you get to see the, what the mass of this is all
because
like.
it is kind of a tough massing to see in elevation as we're working within that footprint, and with everything kind of added on, it kind of moves its way around the site. So we have the street approach. This is the area where we kind of have two different options at the moment, but we're trying to keep the scale down. There's certain opportunities with the pro shop and this, second dining space to get some more height and have some vaulted spaces and kind of play with that height. So not everything's at this 1-story level, but really we're preserving the front of the house, the bay, the porch, wrapping around, having a new entrance into that restaurant that really stands out, so you know where you're going, and then. This is not quite, but having a new golf pro shop that it hasn't quite been modeled recently to kind of match what we're showing in that elevations, but making this a little grander so that you get, give it some presence on the site, putting really an entrance on it so that you know where you're going. And then, sorry. A lot of this area of the pro shop is bathrooms, storage, not anything that really has a huge presence, which is just due to its location on the site. But this entire area would be outdoor dining room, entrance to the bar from the golf course, and concession window. And so, kind of maybe popping this up and making this the main vaulted space and then keeping the roofs low over here to tie everything together. And, we're kind of showing a utility well on top of the kitchen, these hipped roofs to kind of create a space where you could put some equipment and hide it from view, because there is going to be a lot of equipment coming out of that kitchen that is not pretty to look at. And so this kind of gives us an opportunity to do a well, or in the elevations where we show a flat roof with the balustrade around to provide some coverage for those penetrations.
Yeah. Great.
And maximizing, your views out to the.
And just a question on this one for the outdoor space. When we looked at the new build, there's a talk you could do stuff with covers here. This looks a little bit lower, that it'd be tougher to put a.
It would be tougher. I mean, we have some flexibility again, like some of these volumes can raise up if you wanted to get maybe more of a flat roof coverage or a low pitch coverage over some of the dining area. That could definitely be done.
Or just a place for awnings to come out.
Absolutely.
Like
You
something-
definitely, once again, we start that discussion with you, there are lots of ways to do that to make this more three-season,
Three-season, right.
kind of, absolutely.
Yeah, it's nice to give this little, this wall, the pro shop is pretty window free. It's all bathroom space, so we might have some higher windows, but we definitely have space to dye something in there if we want some covered dining areas.
So,
One other thing is, they were talking and I was looking at the roof on the existing building and the roof on the new building. Whenever you have stops, rises, direction changes in roofs, you create a situation where water, snow, and ice can raise hell. And I'm looking at this old one, the remodel of the existing building and put the addition. I see a lot of roof line changes.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I'd much rather this neat, clean, easy to roof flashing.
Yeah.
So that's, to me, a big concern, because we do have a problem with snow and ice in our town. All right, New England.
That's great. It is a New England. Anyway, back to you folks to continue discussion if there are any questions. Again, we're really excited. I mean, we don't think that there's a wrong choice to be made. And I think it'll be numbers and just further discussions.
Well, I think the other thing that, having worked with BFE, when they put this in the context of the site, it also, I had the first reaction that the new building looks awfully big, but when you put it in the context of the rest of the golf course, it may look different.
And we're gonna work
quite-
on that, you know.
Yeah.
We've been building the models and getting everything up to a level to really start putting more detail in and getting context in. And because the renders we will have as deliverable will be in that setting of the, where it would actually be. You'll see the hill behind it.
As I want to say, we want to leave a little something left for design on the project.
But even this, even the elevations here, if you look at it from the left and right side, it's a long building.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's still got.
You know, the other way, you're getting it, you know,
In the
Right.
front.
right in the front, but it's still a big,
Oh,
Big space.
absolutely. Yeah, there become tricks of how do you minimize the effect of how big something looks.
Yeah.
And
Green
that
paint.
we can do. Well, what's that?
Green paint.
Green paint.
blends in with the grass, right?
So then just, so you have some takeaways from us in terms of giving us
Yes,
some more
oh,
ideas
absolutely,
about
absolutely.
breakout.
No, we appreciate, I mean,
This
and,
is still kind of works in
Yeah,
progress.
because one of my concerns, well, one of the, I shouldn't say concern, but questions when I was looking at our last meeting through the stuff was just understanding, and again, trying to, an ultimate goal here is actually to try to make this at what I'll call zero cost to the taxpayers, which means that the golf course will pay for its part of it, which is through user fees of the golf course, and that the restaurant and our lease will in essence pay for what we're gonna pay to construct it. So part of that is, you know, kind of maximize for that restaurant piece, if we can fit in, you know, the function room for 60, but then the restaurant and bar is this big versus this many, that's gonna, I'm assuming, affect what we could get from a lease payment. So it's just really trying to understand,
sure.
you know, how that fits, how it works, and that will help us understand how we
Oh, absolutely.
can get to the point where, again, get this, and I've said it in many public meetings, my
Right.
goal here is that this doesn't cost, in the end, it doesn't cost the taxpayer
Well, that's what we have to
anything.
talk about now. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And we will be there with you, you know, helping you on that.
Yep.
It's not like, okay, it's your problem now. No. We're going to be in there to provide the information, arming you so that the right decisions get made on it. You know, and I always sort of say that, you know, I love, I mean, all the drawings that Lauren put together, they're really beautiful. They sometimes look too finished. So, you know, in ways, there's a long way to go between now and you build it. But
Yep.
back to you guys. I
Perfect.
don't want to let you talk about what you need to talk about.
Al, do you want me to just
Yeah,
talk
go-
about what
go
we
right-
talked about this
you know,
morning?
you can-
So in terms of what we've talked about with public-private partnership and use of the enterprise fund, I've had many conversations over the last few weeks with other folks in the industry, people who have done it before, and attorneys to try to understand how that's all going to work. So I think I don't have all the answers yet, but I do think that we have a meeting on Monday to talk to our bond counsel to understand the use of our typical tax exempt bonds in the context of a commercial restaurant and how that would work. And so that is going to have a big impact on the cost of the project, regardless of how it's paid for. And there's also case law related to kind of how these things play out that I'm trying to understand better so I can present it back to you. But it seems to me that at this point, I'm not sure that we're ready to bring anything to the October town meeting, because I think that when we come with costs, we should be really clear about how it's going to be a zero impact project. And so it also might be that our next step is to develop the RFP to partner with the restaurant sooner than later, so that as we get into more specific design, that entity is part of that discussion. And that development of that RFP is going to be a lot of work, because we really need to, one of the cautions that I heard in the conversations I've had is to make sure that you're not bringing in a a partner and giving them so much freedom in the buildup of the space that a future tenant, it's not going to work for them. And so I think if you think about different restaurants that have really unique character, you know, you could be in that situation. We don't want to be in that situation. So that's where I think we're at. And so, you know, Al and I talked about potentially going to the select board on the 10th to just explain where we're at. Hopefully we'll have a little more information about funding at that point. And the action at the October town meeting might just be a presentation of where we're at to the community. So I know it's not as fast as folks might hope to go, but I think it's really important that we can clearly identify how we can get to the zero impact.
So I agree with that 100%.
I agree.
The only caveat I would add, and you mentioned it, is time. And we need to have a bigger discussion, but there may be an advantage to advancing the design going forward, getting the building in a position where perhaps it's going through planning board and some of these other things, so it's teed up to go when you bring the developer. I mean, I just think there's a couple of nuances there that we should talk about.
We just have to figure it out, because if you're giving, I mean, I don't want to blow, I think these designs are great to the point where we're at, and I think it's great that we have some real options that we can look at. But you have to go out to RFP for the partnership with the restaurant. And if you get a restaurant that says, the 2 stories doesn't work for me, because I know you would raise that as something that restaurants might be concerned about, you know, so I don't know what the right time is to bring the restaurant in, and I think we need to figure that out.
If I can interject, one other thing that we've worked with before is there are a number of restaurant type consultants that are not aligned with one particular, you know, Applebee's or something of that sort, that can be hired to look at it and provide feedback before you go out to the RFP for that. It's just something to think about. You can get some real good professional input, like, you know, there's no way a restaurant can look, you know, the kitchen can't be there, it's got to be here, kind of thing. But you know, again, they're not aligned with one particular, you know, chain of restaurants in there. But you know, get their opinion about here's what's typically done.
So that's another thing we can talk about, because obviously there's a cost to that.
Yeah, and we can. I can get proposals. That's easy. You know, you can get people say, "Hey, we have a project."
From above to us. We don't do that.
Well, I think that we need to, I think given all the work this committee has done, it's a recommendation to select board or whoever. If there's a, you know, if at this point we say, you know, we need to bring in a consultant, which I think is what I'm saying. Like, we either need a consultant or we need to figure out who our partner is so that we don't go too far down the wrong road. Then I think, you know, it sort of depends on what the cost is, because if there is a cost, but I know that also the article that you have right now, that there's funding left in that, so we would have to look at that to see if you could get a consultant on board using that. I don't know. So.
Yeah, I 2 thoughts. I think that, and Al and I had a brief discussion just prior to the meeting too, but knowing how things work in town meeting in the town, we have to be fully prepared to go, and I think we're making great progress, and I don't want to, you know, lighten up our schedule. I want to keep this thing moving, because, you know, you say, oh, if we have till March, we got plenty of time. Well, we don't. No. I think the fall town meeting we're probably not going to be ready for fall town meeting, just thinking of where we are now and the fact that we have to get warrant articles put on there. And we want to do this right, because if you don't do it right, we know what will happen. We will go to town meeting and it will fail to pass, and that's not what you want to do. In what you're saying, I need to educate myself more. I'm almost leaning towards a consultant versus partnering right away, because my concern is you start partnering, we could get into the situation where they're going to tell, I want this designed, and then we're stuck with something that in the future may not work for others.
Well, that's why you have to be really clear in the RFP. So we need to figure that out.
Yeah, but I think, and I don't know what a restaurant consultant costs, but I think maybe that's the option. Maybe that's giving the presentations at town meeting, but saying, hey, what we think, you know, and this would be something that this committee would bring to the select board. The select board would have to discuss it, but say, hey, we want to ask town meeting for additional dollars if we need it, or using the money we have, whatever, I don't know.
Well, and at this point, I think, given where I think we're headed, we need to bring an OPM on for the project.
I was just going to add the comment about the town meeting. I mean, certainly you know your town better than I do, but I know a lot of towns in there. People are going to be excited just to see, hey, that things are advancing.
Oh, absolutely.
So you could have some sort of presentation of, here's the project status, we have a plan in place, we know where we're going.
Yes.
And I think that's that level of confidence that then you can give your communities great without having to say, you know, let's vote, take a vote on it. It's almost like a, you know, an update. Here's the project, but that's worked
And more than
well
likely,
for
we'll
me.
be asking you to be there to help with the presentation. so.
Sorry?
More than likely, we'll be
Oh
asking
yeah,
you
no,
to be with us
we're
to
happy to
help,
do
so,
that.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly, you see, I'm not shy.
Nope.
Lauren isn't either.
No, and you
So-
guys are the experts, and we'll have
Yeah, no,
answers.
no, no.
that-
But
yeah,
I think you want to maintain this enthusiasm that your
Absolutely.
community has on it, and I think you got a lot to be excited about.
Yep.
I mean, I really, you know, it's not. We just won't have that straight vote because we want to do our homework. And you're so right. You want to do this once and right.
Yep.
And you don't want to have to go back like, oops, we forgot this. And you have to go back.
We don't want to do that.
No one likes
I
that.
don't disagree with Christie. I think we need, or the selectmen, somebody has to bring on board a restaurant consultant. I think that's, because we're gonna spend a boatload of money on building this nice building, if we build a building, or whichever way we go. And I just think of that, when that was turned into a restaurant, and we had so many people come and go, and you had to have the right person that was gonna fit in the space that was there, and we failed a few times. And at least if you had a consultant, he can get you into a different mindset on what you should give to the people that are gonna bid.
Yeah, we just don't know that.
But it
Yeah,
also
We
that's-
don't have
that's
that
great.
ability.
It also
right.
might be both.
Absolutely right.
Because restaurants don't typically have to bid on spaces. Like that's our process that we're required to do is unique to folks who are in that industry. And so even if we have a consultant, we want to make sure that we have people who are interested in bidding. I mean, I don't know, Jim, if you remember, we don't get a lot of
Right.
responses. So I also don't want to be in a situation where we have this beautiful space that people are feeling like they're not going to be able to fit into, or the people who might otherwise understand. So it might be both, so that we don't just get this unique perspective, but more of a global.
Right.
But I do think that we need to really be thinking about who's going to bid, and it might not just be anybody, because
But
it's
would a
different.
restaurant sorry to interrupt you, but would a restaurant consultant be able to help us more with a RFP, or is that, do you think not?
I would think they might be able to help with the RFP. I don't know that. I mean, I guess it's almost like a recruiter, right, to generate the responses, and I don't know that that's. I don't know. I mean, you would probably know better than me. I don't know.
They're usually well connected, and we'll put it that way, in terms of, again, they'll think about, you know, at least the advice that we've had for other projects is they'll be thinking about different types of, like a restaurant like this one kind of thing, and they may even have some ideas. And you know, Boston's a small town. I mean, we're in one big small town where people know other people.
Right.
So I think you may get some of that of like saying, but I think you're right. You don't want to just limit it to only one person in there. You want to be able to accommodate a number of people. But they would be helpful with that. They just want to make sure that what we do is the right thing and that could accommodate it. And then I think they will have suggestions on different companies that could be approached.
Could you possibly, at our next meeting, have an estimate for us on what it would cost us to hire somebody that could advise us?
I think so. Yeah, no, I think I can certainly ask around at some of the people who's available. I think it's, I mean, this, you know, the restaurant, I mean, the restaurant had a real following, right, here on it. So I think that there's a real success story. I mean, where you're located, it's beautiful, all of that. So, yeah, why don't we do that? I'll get some feelers out and let you know if getting successful responses on there. You know, it's almost Labor Day, so people are coming back to earth, you know, we can kind of focus in on that.
Yeah, I think just hitting on something you said, I think we do have to be careful when it comes to the RFP, is that I don't view this as, and I don't think the town views this as a restaurant chain coming in.
Right.
You know,
Right.
again, because it's unique because of the golf course and we know the tensions we've had with past lessees with their, you know, affinity or non-affinity for the golf course, whatever. And I think for us to make this really work for the town, I think it has to be both. I mean, the residents want a great restaurant. The golfers would like something that is an amenity for them, and we want to make sure that's balanced. And when you think of, I don't want to throw names to anybody, but some will come in and say, hey, we run restaurants, but we're not.
Right.
Well, and
golf
part of the
courses.
RFP is a template lease that we would want to have,
Right.
which I think also is something that we'll really need to think about, because you don't want, a restaurant is likely not going to come in with a short-term lease, and short-term might, you know, maybe the 10-year lease that we previously had was too short.
Right.
You know, so, yeah.
Yeah, especially if we're asking them to partner and put money into the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to
Well, I also think the problems that we've had leasing this place out before is you look at that building.
Space.
Sure.
The space.
Yeah.
No,
Who
no
in
kitchen.
their right mind wants to set up a nice restaurant in that building?
Right.
I mean, I've eaten there when different owners or restaurant managers, and what a mess of a space.
Yep.
And
Right.
that, to me, if I was a guy that had a restaurant, that wouldn't be a space I'd look at. I might with this, because the whole thing is different. So I think we're gonna get a different set of people
Yeah,
interested.
that's probably true.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Right, well, we've given you some ideas, if, you know, that, some tweaks to what you've presented. so-
Absolutely. We have good marching orders, and we will, I will get some names of different consultants and get information about those firms to you as well as any kind of number, because you're right, you want to get the right fit, I mean, of the right character that's sort of commensurate with Westborough and, you know, just where we're located here, so.
All right, well, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to see you.
Thank
We
you.
really
Same here.
appreciate all your comments. I mean, you're getting a glimpse of what it's going to be like. It's only going to get more exciting as time goes on, so.
Perfect.
I can't
Thank you.
handle a lot of excitement.
Christie?
What's that?
And our
Ian,
next,
Ian and I have a meeting in
Yeah,
5
so-
minutes,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
I can't
next
handle a
meeting
lot
is-
of
Oh, I'm
excitement.
sorry. Well, we'll try.
All right.
I'll do it
Is
in
is
quiet.
everybody available for September 12th is our next meeting, 8 AM in this room?
September 12th.
Thanks, everyone.
Is that
And
Thursday?
That's a Thursday. And I believe, you know, I've talked to Christie, and I may be looking for a presentation on the 10th, September 10th for the select board, if you're available.
Would you like some extra copies of these?
We have 2 members that weren't here, yeah, we can
Right.
give them to them.
Can you provide us
this was
with
really
the
good.
digital?
Thank you so much.
Christie, did you get, Christie?
Oh, I'm gonna
I
actually
got
give
it.
it to
Sorry.
one of the members that couldn't be here today, so that would be,
You'll get to Earl.
Great, thank you.
I'm gonna get this one for Earl.
Okay, and Tyler?
I won't see.
We
Okay,
can
I'll
leave a
hold.
set, unless you, I was gonna say, we can leave a set in our office if he wants to pick
Okay,
them up.
all right, yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine, we'll give you this.
September 12th, right now?
September 12th, 8 AM, and the 10th, yeah. Well, the time, we'll have to set, Christie will set the agenda for that. All right,
Thank
You guys too.
sir.
Thank you so much.
you.
Great to
Thank
see you
you.
again.
and we don't have any invoices? No invoices or anything? There's nothing further we have on the fire station. I haven't heard from the fire chief, so I think that's still,
We are gonna be reviewing bids for the architect,
Mm-hmm.
and then make a decision on that.
okay.
So,
I think that wraps up everything that we had on the agenda. Then do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, anybody?
Yes.
Okay, second. All those in favor? Unanimous.